Welcome everyone to the Global React Meetup online presented by this.media. Today's sponsor is this.labs. This.lab is your partners in modern digital transformation. We specialize in mentorship, consulting, training, and staff augmentation for enterprise organizations. Find out more at this.labs.com or send us an email to hi@this.co. A few announcements. As you know, we have the React Meetup online, but we also have the Global Angular Meetup, and we have the Spanish version. We have a Global View Meetup, and we have a GraphQL Meetup as well. And a super cool one that we recently launched is a Woman in Tech. So feel free to join to any of those meetups. They're free. Hope to see you guys there. Lastly, this.media is hosting the JavaScript Marathon. So basically, we are having awesome speakers present on different topics to things related to JavaScript, right? Once again, those are free events and are awesome. Check them out and hope to see you guys there. Today, I have an awesome speaker. I'm just like super excited because I'm like his #1 fan, but and I've been following him for a few years because like everything he does for the community is amazing. I'm a huge fan of Firebase. I have written a few articles and around Firebase, and a few of the questions that I had when I was writing those articles were answered by David, thanks to the answer that he posted on Stack Overflow. And so it's awesome what he does. He is actually a developer advocate for Google, and he works on the Firebase team. So everyone give a big shout out to David. Leave the claps on the comments on YouTube. So make him feel welcome. So I'm gonna give the microphone to David so he can let us know what he's gonna be talking today about.
Thank you so much. That was one heck of an intro. I'm like, how do I follow up with that? Because you need to set the bar lower. You need to be like, he's done some things, and like he answered one of my questions. He answered a few other that weren't as good, but like the one was fine. Like I need like a nice medium, he does good, great, But I really appreciate that intro. So yes, my name is David East. I work on the Firebase team. I've been working on Firebase since 2014. So I've been doing lots of Firebase talks and demos and stuff for people. That approach has evolved over that 6-year period of time now. I used to take people through and kind of show them like Firebase does this, Firebase does that, and like kind of each thing. And let me share my screen here. I need to make sure I do this right. No, that's not the right one. Here it is. Okay. There it is. All right. So this, I'm going to be sharing. We're going to be building an app today, but I don't want to talk about that just yet. I want to get to this page. All right. So this right here is the Firebase products page. And this shows all the things that Firebase does. We have Cloud FireStore, Firebase ML, Cloud Functions, authentication, hosting storage, real-time database, Crashlytics, performance monitoring, test lab, app distro, in-app messaging, Google Analytics, predictions, A/B testing, cloud messaging, remote config, dynamic links, and our latest and greatest. This one, I'm not going to get to it today, but it's so cool. Deploy server code without writing code. It's awesome. Firebase extensions. It's really cool. But that's like 19 things I just listed off. And if I take you through each one of those things and what it does, it's just kind of like a slideshow that's kind of like my vacation, where I'm like, here's me here and here's me at this place. And, that can be kind of boring. And you might leave being like, Firebase does all these things. But Firebase doesn't do 19 different things. Firebase just does one thing. And Firebase is just a platform to help you build faster. That means you can get to production faster, or you can get to scale faster. It's not just for prototypes and stuff like that. You probably hear people say like, Firebase is really great for hackathons and prototyping, which it is. It's very good for those things. But also, great thing about if you prototype correctly, you don't have to throw away the code that you prototyped. And that is what we like to provide. So something like Cloud Firestore, this database is like a extremely scalable database. It's built in collaboration with the Google Cloud team. So Firebase, built for scale, built to help you build fast. And to demonstrate all that today, I want to build an app. Instead of taking you through each slide, let's just, write some code. And we're not going to do anything super crazy. We're just going to make kind of like a to-do style app, but we're going to log in users. We are going to read data in real time, delete data, all this type of stuff. And we're going to do it, obviously, we're at a React meetup. So we're going to do it with React and also a new-ish, it's like coming almost there, library. It's a bit on the early side, but it's still really cool. So I want to show it off, called React Fire. It works with React Suspense. So if you've worked with Suspense, specifically Suspense for data fetching, this is really awesome. It handles loading states and stuff like that quite nicely. And if you haven't, we're actually going to kind of show like what you do without using that and what it's like when you do use it. So there's going to be a nice comparison. And also, I live for the comments. So write me in the comments. I can see your comments, and I want to look at them and say hi to you, because like I'm going to be writing all this code and it's going to be lonely. So I need people to speak to me. So let's get going, I guess. So this is, make sure everyone can see it. I'm always really paranoid that people can't see the right thing on my screen, because I once did a whole live stream where I literally had the wrong screen open the entire time. So let me know if I'm talking about something that doesn't look like that's what I'm talking about. All right, so this is the app that we're going to build. It might look a little cryptic right now, but we'll explain it as we go along. It's not, like I said, nothing crazy. But what I want to do is I will regret this totally. But what I'm going to do is I'm just going to delete this whole thing. So this is what we're going to build. And then just like that, it's gone. So now we're doing it from scratch, except for the imports. I don't like managing imports. So I kind of leave the imports there. So if that's cheating, then well, whatever. All right. So what we're going to do first is we are going to create a little, just to make sure we're doing everything correctly, we're going to create an app function. And so we're going to do everything with functional components today, hooks and all that cool stuff, not class components, which I still like class components. Nothing wrong with using class components. But React Fire is meant specifically for with hooks and functional components. So that's why I'm going that way. So I'll just return a div of hi. This is truly how I begin every React project, and that's not even a joke. I just truly just write a div out that says hi, and let's just render the app and document.query selector, and then I believe we have a root element. And if we're there, oh wait, target. Oh wait, no, there we go. Sometimes. There we go. Stack Blitz. This is Stack Blitz, by the way. I don't think I mentioned that. Stack Blitz is I assume most of you know what Stack Blitz is, but for those who don't, this is an amazing tool. So I'd like to introduce it to you. So the Stack Blitz is a tool for just building in the browser. It's like VS Code in the browser. It's really cool. It hooks up with GitHub, automatic React, Angular, support, all that type of stuff. So yeah, I'm a big fan. So this right here, we have our app out. So what I'd like to do is the first thing I want to do is log a user in. So one of the things that Firebase allows you to do, we have a service called Firebase Authentication, and you can log in with a ton of stuff. So let's take you to the Firebase console to kind of showcase things. So this is also one of the, if you're going to use Firebase, this is one of the main things that you're going to end up doing. Is you're going to use Firebase's console to kind of check your data, look at your users. These are my current users. They are anonymous. You will learn what that means later if you don't know what it means. But also I can check in what sign-in methods is my app currently using. So these are all the different ways you can log a user into your app. You have email, password, phone number authentication, Google, Play Games, Apple Games Center, Facebook, Twitter, GitHub, Yahoo, Microsoft, Apple, and the one we're going to be using today is anonymous. And you notice that some of these are disabled, some of these are enabled. This is because you only want to enable the things you want people logging in at. So you can easily do all that. So you configure this in the console, and then when you write the code, it works. So that's what we're going to do now. We're going to log people in anonymously, which this is a really difficult word to spell. I always mess it up all the time. So today will be no exception. So let's just create a little button. So the first thing let's do, let's create this div. I'm going to be using a CSS framework called Tailwind, which if you haven't used Tailwind, it's the best, and I love it. It's, in my opinion, as it's the best, not objectively the best. It's subjectively the best. So you can say, let's give this thing a container, an MX auto, which means margin auto, so we can get things centered in the middle. And then we'll create H2, and we'll just say test for now. That will change here in a little bit. Class name is, let's give it a big text 3XL. And how does that look? Okay, I like it. It looks good. It just says test, but it's about the little things. All right, so the next thing we're going to do is we're going to actually create a button. And so instead of creating this button, I'm going to use this one. I have a button named purple button because it's purple. And we're going to write log in and close out of purple button. And so what I want to do is I want to say, hey, when I log in and click this button, let's log the user in anonymously. And this has an on-click handler. And here we go. All right, so inside of here, this is a click and I'll log in. But how do I do that? How do I go from this click to Firebase? So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to show you how you hook up Firebase like the vanilla way, not with React Fire, because it kind of does a nice transition to why you would use React Fire and Suspense for data fetching. And I think this is how the, oh, we have so many comments. Can you read if we have any cool questions, can you read out some of the comments? Because like I said, I love. James says he likes my hair. That's I'm not sure if that's an insult or not. I haven't had a haircut in a very long time, but I know James personally, so he can make fun of me. That's fine. You just give me a hard time. That's fine. Nice mug on the table. I don't know if someone's going to watch this later, but this is me. I just like to vibe with the crowd. All right, so let's go. Let's just do like general Firebase. So with Firebase, we give you a library, so you can import Firebase, and then you would say from Firebase. But in this case, I'm just going to import a subpackage of app because I just only want to import the things that I'm going to use. And so you can import all of Firebase. We actually print something in the console to tell you that's probably not advisable because it's unlikely that you need everything. And even if you do need everything, you probably don't need everything all at once. So we kind of recommend you don't do that. So let's start with app because it's the simplest thing. And then what we're going to do is we're going to create a Firebase app. And an app is sort of like this container of all your Firebase services. And to do that, we're going to create a method called Firebase initialize app. And this is going to come in with a config. And this config you typically get from the Firebase console. You would come up here and you would go into your project settings. And then down in the app section, you can click you can get this whole big code snippet, or you can just get the config. I have this saved to my project, but we prompt you through this when you go through your like create app wizard. So this is where you get it afterwards though, if you forget it, like I always do. So I have it saved right here just as an export, default export of just the config, kind of like doing it that way, just a real simple way of doing it. So now what I'm going to do is just import that config. So import config from Firebase /Firebase config, and then just pass that through. And now I have a Firebase app. It's going to give me tons of errors because of all the reloading. So I'm going to close out on that. All right, so now I have a Firebase app, which gets me pretty much nothing because it doesn't. We're not using any Firebase services. We just have the container. We're pretty much telling Firebase, all right, this is how you talk to your specific project, your Firebase project, how to talk to your specific Firebase backend. But now that we know how to establish that connection, we need to know what we do something cool. So the cool thing we're going to do is we're going to log a user in. And so we have these sub packages that you can import. They're just these bare imports afterwards. It augments the Firebase app. And so if I didn't import this, then when I call app.auth, which I'll do here in a second, that would be an undefined property. So when I do this, it automatically augments it. So what I want to do now is I want to say app.auth, and then I can do this cool thing where I say sign in anonymously. I think that's how you spell it. Oof, that's going to be a tough one. And let's see here. If I say const user and I say await it and then make this async, I think this is going to work. Let's see here. Yes. Okay, that's fine. All right, log in. And I didn't actually console log it. Console.log user. All right. Let's hope this works. Is it going to work? No, it's not working. Of course it's not. Okay. Let's go. Always when I do async inside the function, it makes me really scared. So I'm just going to say function log in user. And then let's actually have this take in the app. And then let's just do this the logical way. Whenever I write inline functions, they're much harder to debug. They don't have names. So in the call stack, they show up anonymously. That instead of like this nice will have a name to it. And also when you mark them async and it's inside of a function, it just all these crazy things happen. So I did it just because I was trying to be lazy, and it's just never a good idea. So let's do a console.log. Good old here. This is pro level debugging right here. Just say here, it's almost mandatory, I think. And so you say log and user, and then we're gonna pass in the app. Right. Okay, so this is all good. All right. Okay, so we have here, but it's not app.auth. That's sign in anonymously. I'm pretty sure no, but that should error. I don't know why it's doing that. Okay, so let's go into. Oh, I know what I want to do. Okay, so let's go into here. I want to copy the word anonymous. That's actually all I'm doing. So I can go authentication. Do we have any comments? Anyone tell me what I'm doing wrong?
People are saying...
Oh, Chris Peters has it for me. Thank you, Chris Peters. Yeah. I can never spell it, and I called that out first. Really. Yeah, see, look at that. How that is not even a word now that I look at that. Look at that. You would think after years of typing, I was really good for like a year or two, and then just has completely slipped my brain from there. All right, cool. So now we have a user. So that's awesome. So we have this user, and now just like that, we went from no login system to a login system. And now things are going to start getting a little more complicated. And this is where we're going to really show the need for React Fire. So if you have been wondering, like, what's the big deal with suspense and suspense for data fetching, we are about to see what it helps you with. So what I want to do now is I have this user, but I want to be able to say like, hey, like, let's render this test div with the user's UID. And a UID is unique identifier of the user. And there's nothing like secure about it in the sense that like if someone gets the UID, that's not going to make your app insecure. And also just to call it the config, that is also publicly available config. Do not worry if that's into your app. That's just, it's not going to cause anyone to hack your system. We're going to actually cover what keeps people from hacking your system at the very end. So what I want to do now is I want to monitor when the user is actually logged in. So I could await it, and I did this just to make sure it was working. But ideally, I don't want to do that because that's just a one-time transaction of did that user log in. What I really want to do is monitor the state of the user. This is the really this is sort of what I consider to be a best practice way. And so I say onAuth state changed. And what this does is it gives us a callback that fires off whenever the user's state changes. So like, did they log in? Did they log out? And so it will be null if there's no user, or if they log out. So it's a really nice real-time way of seeing what the user state is. And we're already starting to get some crazy errors, and this is okay. This is expected. So we're getting this whole thing called default app already exists. And a little bit of this is reloading. A bit of this is also hot module reloading, and a bit of this is also with hooks, and we'll see that here in a second. And so let's console.log the user. And this will probably break again. Yes, so default app. And so basically what's happening is oh cool, we're logging here. So basically what it's doing, it's saying like, hey, this default app, you've already initialized an app and you're initializing an app again, what's going on? And so I'm just gonna do a little hack for now just to kind of fix this. And so I'm saying, hey, if there is a single app available, just use that. Otherwise, initialize a new one. And then now we don't have that error anymore. This is not like production level code. This is a hack, but also a reason why you use React Fire. And we'll show that in a second. So, okay, so I have one thing done. But now I want to set, a user. So maybe to do that, I'll use a hook and I'll have a user and set user. I'm already shadowing a variable, but I'm coding live, so I think that's okay. React dot use state, and then with here, whenever a user logs in, I'm going to want to set this user. Now, if you're a big hooks person, you're like, what are you doing right now? This is not going to work, and it's not working. And also, I didn't do what I wanted to do here. So user.uid. It's not going to work. And that's because this is a side effect. And this says UID of undefined. This never changes. And I could change this to UID of LOL because we need we're calling on a property. So let's see here. So it did change. Well, this did change, but this is going to get murky. So instead of doing that, what I want to do is to React.use effect, and then inside this callback, run the side effect so bad things don't happen. And so I set this user, and then I probably want to provide like a depths list of the user. Let's see if this works. All right, cool. So what's going on here is that we are going to run a side effect of logging in this user. So React gives us a hook. This is similar to the lifecycle hooks you have in class components, but it's not a class component. It's inside of a function. And what we're doing is we're saying when the user logs in, let's update the state to the user. And this is saying like, hey, only run this when a user updates. And this kind of keeps our code, the updates kind of sandboxed from other updates. It's a nice pattern. But you notice I had to set this default value. And that's because there's this bit of difficulty with loading states. And that is a big common problem with all framework development, not just React, is that what do I do until that data comes back? And that is effectively what React dispenses is like, hey, if you write your code in a certain way, we'll tell the app what to do until that data goes back, and then you don't have to worry about the loading states. So at least they're a lot more simplified. So instead of setting this default one or saying if this user is not null, then render this, that gets kind of murky. So instead, what I want to do is I want to use suspense. And something else too is when I get this UID and then I want to read the user's tasks by that UID from the database. Well, what do I do when they don't exist? Do I need to run a listener inside of this callback? My code gets really messy. It's gross. And I don't like doing that because callbacks inside of callbacks it tends to be a problem. So I'm going to move on to the suspensified world. So let's again, we're just going to start deleting code. Actually, let's change this for now. So the first thing you want to do, let's collapse this. Let's not get super crazy. So the first thing we want to do is we want to use create root. And so create root it's in the experimental version of React. I'm in like whatever the experimental snapshot is that's published on NPM. And this allows us to enable concurrent mode, which concurrent mode is sort of like the umbrella term for all these new features that are coming to React. And so we have render right here. And so instead of rendering, we're going to say create root. And this is a little different. So we first want to provide the DOM container, and then we call .render, and then render with what? Right now, we're going to change this, but we'll just say app so this doesn't break. And yeah, it doesn't break, but doesn't really do anything for us because we're not using suspense. So I want to start using suspense with React and with React Fire. So I'm going to create a function and I'm going to say Firebase. I'm going to call it a Firebase wrapped app. And inside of here, I'm going to start importing from React Fire, which I think I still have all my React Fire imports right here. So React Fire is library. You can download it on npm. And we have providers and we have hooks that do a lot of the similar things I showed you with the vanilla SDK, but it works specifically in a hook way, in a suspense way. And we'll see that here now. But this provider, it helps us from doing that kind of hack I had where I had to say like, hey, does the default app exist? If not, then do this. This does a lot of smarter things, a lot more production ready code, actually memoizes the initialization. It does lots of great stuff. And then what you do is you just pass in your Firebase config as a prop. And then inside of here, now down the tree, you can use these hooks to pull things out of context. So it's a really nice way. Once we're inside this app provider, we get all these conveniences down the line. And so what I'll start by doing is I want to do a React suspense start the suspense tree up top. Ideally, though, what I've learned with messing with suspense more, I like to kind of put suspense lower down the tree, depending on your approach, of course. But I found that putting suspense lower down the tree really helps you be more granular with how you're doing your loading states, which can be better for performance and better just for like usability of your app in general, instead of just having like one big like loading up top, which is what we're going to do. But that's just sort of something I found. Let me know in the comments if you have found that as well. And so suspense takes a fallback and we have to say, like, what are we going to do until things are done loading? And so I'm just going to write a div that says loading. And then inside of here is where I'm going to finally start using my app. So now I'm going to get rid of app and just have it do Firebase wrapped app. And I am ready to use all of the React Fire suspense and stuff like that. So let's open the app back up and let's just start deleting the code now. So I want to delete this right here. That's going to cause an error. Let's start with deleting the app first. So instead of doing this hack, let's get rid of it. I don't want to do that anymore. I can say, use Firebase app. And then just like that, it's going to pull this app out of context. And then my code, it just still works. Once it loads, see, everything still works because it's just a Firebase app, but now I pull it out of context. So this is like a really nice, this is a very common pattern that you'll see with React Fire. You can, as long as you set up your app provider up top, you'll have a lot of hooks to pull things out of context. And so now what I want to do is I want to be able to get my user back. But like we said, we had to provide this like blank object, this dummy object, which is not ideal. So instead of that, I want to call a hook called UseUser. And UseUser does this right here. So not only can I delete this use state, and actually it kind of does this, actually pretty much very similar, does all of this line right here, and then suspensifies it so it returns synchronously, or the appearance of synchronously. And so I can delete all this code and just say use user. And I don't have to provide any dummy data. And then when we, this is not going to work though with the function because it just returns user, not the array, because you don't have to set the user. So now when it loads, just like that, there was no flash of content. It just was the user. And that was really awesome when you can condense all these lines down to one. And this is still an asynchronous operation. So this doesn't like, wait on the main thread or anything like that. It does everything that the code we wrote before, but it uses suspense to throw the promise until it's resolved. And then when React is ready to render, this React knows how to return your asynchronous value synchronously. Suspense is still a little mind-blowing. If you think suspense is a little mind-blowing, let me know in the comments. I would love to hear your thoughts on that. It's very cool, but it kind of feels like, the guy in the meme who's got like the wires everywhere and he's like, it's like this, it's like that. So that's how I feel. It's cool though. So now I have this and everything will work the same way. but since this comes back like synchronously, big air quotes, my code becomes a lot more clean. So now I want to read data, and I want to do that with a database we have called FireStore. Oh, and also with React Fire, I don't need to use the Firebase imports. I deleted those imports, and everything's still going to work because React Fire does all of that underneath the hood for us. So now I want to call UseFireStore. So FireStore is a database that updates in real time, works offline, even across the web. So like if you have a PWA and your user goes offline, it works really cool that way, as your app will continue to work offline. But right now, I'm going to get back the database, just like how I got back the user and the app, which is called UseFireStore. And now I have a way to talk to the database. And so the way this works, let's go back to the console and let's click on database. Here we go. This is our database. We have tasks. It's a document database. So our first collection of documents, our collection is tasks. So we have all these generated IDs right here. And then we have name, write a bunch of code. UID is this, UID is that, of the logged in user. So we have 3 tasks that we can render right now. So if you remember this, that we're just talking to tasks, this is going to be a lot easier. So we'll create a task collection, and that's with the DB. I can call this collection method and just say, hey, give me the tasks. And then now from here, I can get back this just is we call this a reference. So it references that location, but we want to actually get back the data. So to do that, I can get the tasks data by calling a hook called UseFireStore collection data. And this, if you remove data, this is another method that will give you the snapshot, which contains a lot of metadata and other helpers on it. But I just want the data back right now. So this method kind of unwraps it from the snapshot. So now I want to put in my tasks collection. And by default, the ID of a document and the data are 2 separate things, unless you're saving them to unless you're saving it inside of the document manually. So what we allow you to do, the snapshot contains the ID, but the data may not. So we make it easy to merge those 2 together with the library. So if you provide this object and say ID field is ID, or whatever you want to call it, we let you do the mapping. It then will map that to your objects. And so just to see that working, console.log tasks. My Mac fan is just like going crazy right now. All right. Let's spin and load. Loading. Awesome. So we're going to get double render. This is something I've just noticed in concurrent mode with anytime you're calling use state, it does this double render. It doesn't do it in prod mode, though, only in dev mode. If you know why, let me know. I don't know why. I looked online for like all of 5 minutes and couldn't find out why. And I was like, yeah, this is good enough. But here's all the data. So right here, let's render that to a list. So now that we have this data, and like I said, this is asynchronous and this updates in real time. So if we were to, change this to write a bunch of code with exclamation marks, we got another double emission, but still like write a bunch of code. So this all updates in real time. Someone updates it, boom, 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 all the clients update. So, never gets old. And so now what we'll do is let's create an unordered list. So UL /UL, and then I want a bunch of lists inside of here. So tons of ways of doing this. I always prefer to do it outside of the return. And so let's do equals tasks.map, and this will return a task. And then within here, I created this component called task item. I think that's what I called it. I'm kind of like, did I do that? And I think it's item. And then that's task. I really should have named that better, but I didn't. All right, so let's list items. All right, let's let my computer stop being on fire, and let's let this load. Awesome. Yeah, we're gonna have this key problem. That's fine. I don't care to fix that right now. So here we go. I have write a bunch of code. Don't mess up. Go eat some pizza. And if I click this complete button, we can delete it from the database. And also if I want to add an input bar so we can add different stuff. So I created a component for that as well. I'm just gonna write in there, input bar. I think this will work. Or is it, I don't know if I don't think the alignment's going to work. It works good enough. So now I have this input bar, and it has a method called onNewValue, which returns the name of the task, and this will help us save to it. So now if I want to save a new task, what I want to do is I want to not just save the name of the task. I also want to save what user it belongs to, because what that's going to do is it's going to help me query better. So I can say, hey, give me all the tasks that belong to a specific user. So it's like your own private one. Or also let me secure those tasks. So if we are collaborating publicly, I still only want, maybe I want the tasks visible, but I don't want them editable, writable by other people unless that person owns it. And then we can do that with our security rules later. But so for now, I'm going to talk to task call. So use the same reference that we used before to read data. I'm going to use it to write data. So I'm going to call this method called add, which will create its own generated ID. And then I'll write name. And then within here, I'll say UID is user.uid. So with any luck, this will work. Come on, spin, 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 spin. All right, hello. Look at that. And it inserted at like a random order because the generated IDs are not order sorted. There's ways for us to do that. That is, I don't think I have enough time to do that, but don't worry about it. We can easily do that. And now what I want to do is I want to make sure that, when I click complete, I can delete. So to show that, I need to remember what that was. So I'm going to go look in that components file. What did I call that event? Task item incomplete. Wow. I named that one well. Okay. And I couldn't remember it. So let that be a lesson. When you name things well, you forget them. But when you name things horribly, you remember them. So I think that's a good excuse to name things horribly. So on complete, it's going to give me back the task, which is like the task name and everything. Oof, this formatting is bad. And you can fix it for me, Stack Blitz. No, it wants me to go back to one line, of course. And so what I want to do is I want to get the single document, and then I can call delete on it. So I can say tasks call.doc, and then inside of the doc, I can say task.id, because that comes back from me, and then call delete. Ooh, this is really precarious doing this all in one line. Oof, feels crazy. I don't like it. Don't like it one bit. Okay. I'm no confidence that's going to work. All right. So come on. Loading. All right. Boom. And it's gone. So let's do a quick one. Just lots of gibberish. Gibberish is good. And then if I click into the database, we have that one right there. And then if I click complete to delete, it's gone. So just like that, that was a very quick amount of time that I have this real-time list, and I was able to use all the new conveniences of React, like suspense, suspense for data fetching specifically, all this stuff very simply. And now before, I actually want you all to come in here and do this, but before I do that, I'm going to get serious about security. So right now, nothing keeps anyone from just like deleting and modifying data if they want to send a REST request. So if I want to secure data, I need to write rules. Now, this is the in-console way of writing rules. You can write rules on your local dev machine and deploy them with a command line. But this is just the easiest visual way to show you. So this is saying, hey, this is very similar to writing like a router where you would say match a specific path in the database. So in this case, this is a ** path. So match everything. And then once I've matched everything, allow a read or a write if true. So that means do everything, and that's bad. We don't want that. So let's change this just a bit. So we're going to say match/tasks and then give it a route parameter, task ID. And now what we want to do is we want to say allow read if true, because all this data should be publicly readable. That's fine. But we only want to allow a write if, and then now here comes some really powerful parts of security rules. I can actually tap into the request that is coming over the network and into the database, and I can check to see if the authenticated user exists and if they have a UID. So I can say if the UID of the authenticated user matches the request resource, which the resource is the data that's coming to us, so the task, and if it has a UID. Publish these, and then just like that, I have secured rules, and this was not a lot of code to provide security. So now that that is done, I can still create because I am myself, but I couldn't go through and edit anybody else's. And to show you, let's where's my share button? Here it is, share. App URL, here we go. Let's copy that. I'm gonna go into the comments. Thank you, Jose, for note to self, name things horribly. That is exactly what you should be doing, naming things horribly. And I pasted the link in. Let's see what happens. This is the most terrifying part of the whole thing though. So let's see what happens. All right, does anyone want to come in, log in, and start writing data? I think, though, I didn't write this code very well, so if you don't log in, it's going to break. But I did this live, so I'm going to give myself a pass on that one. Come on, anyone? Anybody?
Hey, where's the link?
Oh, I pasted it into the bottom of YouTube chat.
I don't see it.
I think the chat's going. Or did I not? Here, how do I thought I pasted it into the bottom of YouTube chat. Maybe I'm getting moderated. It's just React Fire sampler stackblitz.io. I don't know if you can paste it in there. I went into the actual YouTube and did it, but it didn't it didn't do it. I didn't notice Patrick's all in there talking to people. Thank you, Patrick. All right. I don't think I can get the... Bram, I told you that you had to log in first. I may have shared it. Everybody's getting an error. Yeah, no one sees the link. I can see the link. Why is that? Here, here, I'm going to send it to you in private chat. And is there a way for you to send it to people in public chat?
Yeah, I can probably do that.
Thank you. I appreciate that. So pretty much here, you have to log in. I forgot to write a guard for that. I should have done that, but like I said, live coding. So this is not a lot of code that, especially with React Fire, pretty much most of this is React code, but the Firebase code, we have these, what is it, from 26 to 36, so 10 lines here, and then one more line here, so 11, 12. So, and basically 10 to 15 lines of code. We took what would be just like a in-memory, only works on your machine app to a login, write things, and, just in this short amount of time, just 10 lines of code. And all of this was mostly just me bloviating and explaining things, and then writing bad code. But you can see like 10, 15 lines of code. You have yourself a backend, and that's not a lot of time. That's super fast. So like I said, the whole point of Firebase is that we help you build fast. So I think that people aren't updating because that's probably mostly my fault, but that's fine.
They are saying that whenever we try to log in, it's giving us an issue that says cannot read property UID of null. So I don't think we can log in anonymously.
There we go. Well, I think the problem there, and I noticed this with StackBlitz, is that when I do concurrent mode, really weird things. Oh, wait, I didn't save. That also could be a problem. Let me see here. It also might be not on the latest version. Well, it works on my machine, everybody. And that's all that matters, right? And I'm going to open up an incognito, see if I can run the same error as you. This project, let's see what happens. Oh yeah, I get the same thing now. I think this is, yes, okay. I know what this is. Unfortunately, this is due to, I think this is something with Stack Blitz and in the experimental suspense mode, it does this randomly. I don't know. I don't think it. So if we go, sorry, Bram, I know you work on Stack Blitz, but we gotta get this. This is mostly me because it's. But if we go here to the dependencies, I'm on the new. So this is not really Stack Blitz's fault. This is like crazy experimental mode. So for some reason it works sometimes and it doesn't work other times, which makes sense because you're probably running a renderer that, or your builder that is not meant to work with the experimental stuff yet. So that's not Stack Blitz's fault, more so me being a mad scientist. So this is, I imagine that's the problem there. But you saw it work, trust me. But yeah, that is all the code I have. Or Tomek asks if I want to commit. Okay, man, I didn't know Stack Blitz was going to be rolling into this. Here, I committed, but I think this is to do with experimental mode. But we'll see. All right, that's going to be my presentation for the day. If anybody has any questions or you have any questions, I'm gonna cut my screen out. I didn't leak my email or do anything crazy, which I've done before. But yeah, any
question? I love Firebase, and like you were saying, Firebase has multiple services. Which one is your favorite one?
Oh, that's a tough question. They're like my children. I love them all equally. But Brian, no, I'm just kidding. No, I truly do. It's tough because they all work so well together. I don't think I love any service, because like I could say like, oh, the database, but the database is really, it's only useful if you can secure it. And then Firebase Auth makes it very easy to secure. You can bring other security systems in, but Firebase Auth makes it very easy to secure any of the databases. I really love Firebase hosting, which we didn't even get into, but I don't know, it's hard. I can't answer that. Love them all together.
Makes sense. People are wondering if you're posting the code on GitHub.
It is already on GitHub due to Stack Blitz is Stackbase. Stack Blitz is really cool GitHub integration. So I can send you that. Let me send you that. So since apparently I can't post in chat, I will send you that link so you can send it to the people. Here.
Gotcha.
Here. All right. So yes, that code is on GitHub.
There you go. So someone else has another question is, when is real-time database better than FireStore?
That's a great question. So the real-time database has a lot of just simplicity to it. And I mean that like a very good way. It's super simple to get started with. It's super easy to work with. FireStore is easy as well, but FireStore, can scale up really crazy and it can do much more powerful queries. And then you're doing stuff with indexing and stuff like that. So with, great power comes great more, Spider-Man. Real-time database, like if you're syncing JSON across multiple clients, that's probably the easiest solution you can do. So if you're just like, hey, we want some settings updated or like a high score updated or all this stuff just needs to, every time something gets published, you want everybody to see it. Real-time database is going to be super easy. The lines of code of that is going to be really small and the latency of real-time database is super low. So that's a great scenario for that. Also, real-time database has a really nice REST API to it as well. So if you need a REST API in conjunction to the real-time stuff we give you, that's a really great spot. Because basically with real-time database, if you do the full URLs .json at the end, that's your REST URL. So it's super easy there as well.
You just answered one of my questions that I had. I was wondering if FireStore had that API endpoint, but based on what you just said, they don't, right?
So they do, but FireStore they do have a REST API that works similarly to the real-time database. It is just not as simple for good reasons. So Firestore deals with more complex data types. And so when you talk to the Firestore database, and it's not as simple as also doing .json, it's like a different URL structure. And then when you go to do a get at a collection location, you'll get that data back, but then it's going to be around it's not just going to be the JSON object. Around it is going to be the value type of it. So the data type. So it's going to be like, it's a string value, a number value, a geo point value. So it tells you across the client what the type of value it is, which is super helpful when you're dealing with rich data types, but it's not as simple. So you still have to kind of parse through that to get the values you need.
Cool. I don't have any questions on my side. If anyone that is watching the live stream has any questions, just post them right now. If not, we're gonna let David go. So.
Thank you all for coming. This was super fun. I am glad I got it kind of working.
No, it was awesome. Thank you so much. I learned so much. It was awesome. Thank you.
All right. See you all later.
Take it easy. Bye-bye.